This is Robert Martellacci of the MindShare Learning Report at C21 Canada. I'm honored to be your MindShareTV host today. We have a truly inspiring, very special guest, Lisa Schmucki, founder and CEO of EdWeb. Welcome, Lisa. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Robert.
As EdWeb celebrates 17 years of empowering educators through online professional learning, we're thrilled to reflect on its journey, the evolution of digital learning, and what's ahead in an AI-empowered world. A little bit about Lisa. She is, as I mentioned, the founder and CEO, a Princeton graduate, master's in accounting from NYU, an award-winning professional learning network EdWeb is that has transformed how educators connect, collaborate, and enhance their teaching practice with a career spanning media, technology, and education. Lisa has been at the forefront of driving innovative online learning experience. Under her leadership, EdWeb has built a global community where educators engage in high-quality, free professional learning, fostering collaboration across districts, subject areas, and leadership levels. Wow. What an incredible journey it's been, and what an incredible impact. How does that make you feel, having heard that from me this afternoon?
Well, 17 years is beginning to get to be a pretty big number. It feels really good. It was on Friday. So
Yeah.
Friday was, exactly the 17th anniversary. So we pulled some stats together on, the million educators that we've reached during that time, and the number of over 3,000 webinars on professional learning. And, we have a lot of stats put together in an infographic. It was fun to think about it.
Yeah.
But the main thing is community, right? Because the whole idea is to create a community that could break down a lot of the silos that always kind of exist. What there's a silo for me, when you talk about that introduction,
Right.
I was never in the classroom. So I started in accounting for a couple of years. As I was telling you earlier, like that wasn't a good fit. So I'm like, okay, I need to find something else.
Take us down memory lane a little bit. On how it evolved. And incidentally, it's going to be this month is our 18th year of publishing. So we launched around the same time. I think I was 2007, you were 2008. But the vision has to start somewhere.
Right.
Talk to me about how that came about, and what I admire about your pivot from the accounting world.
Accounting.
I have
where I am now.
In my twins.
I use it. I do use the accounting now.
It comes in handy. No, it's a great grounding.
Yeah.
And making that commitment to take that leap of faith, to put out your shingle. 1 in 10,000 ideas they talk about that actually gets executed. So kudos to you.
Wow.
And then a woman entrepreneur as well, right? Talk to me about the challenges you faced and the inspiration from others and mentors. Unpack a little bit for us.
Yeah, I've had a long career in education, but the first part of it was in publishing and media. I was never in the classroom. I wasn't an educator, but I always wanted to work for companies that were, doing something, meaningful, where the product was helping, particularly in an educational area. And so when my daughter showed me Facebook for the first time, I can't remember exactly when Facebook launched, but it was around 2006 or 7.
Right.
And she was in college, and she mentioned Facebook for the first time, that she was going to connect with her friends on Facebook. I was like, what's that? And she said, well, I'll show you. So, she was home from college, and she showed me what it was. And I had always worked in database management and the earliest computer systems, but it was a mystery to me, on your phone, a friend, a group. Like, what are you talking about? So, but it didn't take long to figure out what it was. And then what I realized is we really needed to help educators learn about this technology, because that started with students. It started with Zuckerberg in his dorm room. In the early days, you had to have a college email address. to be able to be on it. So I said, well, we should create a Facebook for teachers. And I was really very lucky that I had a person whose company I'd worked for, who was an angel investor, so that, helped us get started. So that was certainly a huge help. But I think I just had a compelling idea. I think if you ever in your life were handed a crystal ball, I just saw the future. I said, this is really going to be the way we're going to communicate with each other. So after 17 years, it's amazing that Facebook is still there and it's huge. But back then, I realized that it wasn't going to be great for professional collaboration, and it's still not great for professional collaboration. So there's, you want to have a space that's dedicated to that for the kind of conversations that we want to have.
Remarkable.
Okay.
Remarkable. And so along the way, you have a vision, like we had a vision of when we launched your co-working space, the MindShare workspace here, and compared to what it is today, 7 years later, it looks a little different. I made a few pivots along the way.
Yeah.
Talk to me about pivotal moments and memorable moments of winning awards. You're multi-award winning. I don't know if I mentioned that in the intro. I know I didn't want to embarrass you too much, but talk to us about your key pivots and maybe advice along the way that you got, right? How important is you have an advisory board, which is very strategic.
They've been so helpful. Yeah.
How many companies?
Many of them have been on the journey the whole way. Which is
and I've had many of mine with me as well.
Yeah.
And I tell other founders that you really should have an advisory board because people want to help.
Yeah.
You just have to ask.
Yeah, I know. And I'll tell you, one of our very good friends, both of us, is Kathy Hurley. And I remember, she's huge in the industry. She's just amazing. And
how did you manage to get her and I didn't? I can't believe that. And
I was, this is, and she tells the story too. Like, she says that you need to ask for help. And when people say you can't be shy to do that. Right. And so I remember when I asked her if she wanted to be on my advisory board, and I was terrified. I'm like, of course I'll be on your advisory board. It's like, oh my gosh. So that was a lesson right there. You know what I mean? Don't hesitate to ask for help or try. But, your question about the, pivotal moment, I'd say in the beginning, there was a really big one in the beginning because we created this social network, and I figured we were just creating a platform and everybody would figure out how to use it. But for about 2 years, people would say, oh, this is great. This is nice. What do we do? What do we do? And then I began to realize that we had to have our own idea and create a way to demonstrate how to use it. And what I always say is that I met a school librarian, Michelle Ludala, at a COSIN conference in March of 2010. And she was the last session of the last day. And she talked about using social media in her library. And I went up to her after and I said, could we do webinars on what you just presented today? And I have this network of educators that we could present it for. And with her, all thanks to a librarian, who's also a very good friend, now we created this idea of a group on a topic for librarians and webinars. And they asked for a certificate. And I said, well, what does that look like? And a librarian emailed me one. And I said, okay, we can give you that. And so, it's really been, Robert, we get so much feedback all along the way, right? So whether it's a need or a question or a request from the community is where we get so many ideas of the little, improvements that we should make.
Thank you for that. And you became mission critical during COVID.
Well, that was another pivotal moment. Yeah. Well, it was a pivotal moment when the whole system crashed. So, because it was when everything shut down.
What was the most people you had concurrently on your system at one time?
Well, it would have been nice if the system could have handled that many people, but it was a webinar the Monday when the shutdown happened, and we had 15,000 registrants.
That's remarkable. And I got a memory link shared with me in Google Message the other day. My last business trip, there were 2 trips. one to the Northwest Territory, Yukon, and one to Winnipeg.
Mm-hmm.
Just before the 5th anniversary of COVID
Mm-hmm.
is coming up March 13th,
Oh, that's right.
in 2 weeks.
Yes, right.
So it stopped me in my tracks. When I saw the memory pay, I shared it with someone that was on that trip with me, and I'm like, can you believe it's 5 years now? But
That's really
without EdWeb and other mission critical tools, you really help accelerate and who would have imagined
we grew
100% of
enormously.
educators
Yeah.
embrace tech-infused pedagogy because of organizations like EdWeb that help empower them.
But the other thing too is that I mean, we have so many on live. So we do 400 live programs a year. That's a lot. And the average registrations for are 1,000 for over 400 programs and 400 on live. So the chats that happen during, and we always, from the beginning, we've always had people on webcams. We've always had open live chats. And a lot of people, even now, still hesitate to do the open live chats. But during COVID, I mean, particularly, it was an opportunity for educators to come on and, talk with other educators about what was happening. And what was clear was it's always been clear how much educators do what they do because of their students. That's what's really, really always impressive and amazing, how much they go above and beyond because they're trying to help students.
Fascinating. Talk to me about topics, trends that evolved over time and how you kind of read the tea leaves. And I sense that you really pay attention to the customer.
Well, I mean, in some ways, we kind of haven't had to read the tea leaves, or well, we can read the tea leaves, but we didn't have to really predict anything because, I mean, as you know, all of our programs are free, but they're free because they're all sponsored, almost all. We do pro bono work too, but they're almost all sponsored by partners and sponsors who are amazing solution providers. And so whether they're a reading company or a math company or now, digital literacy, AI, we're hosting those programs for them. They do pay us to provide all the services to get them the audience, give them all the reports and the data and the recordings, and then it's all free for educators. So what has been really phenomenal is how many different topics we have been able to host because of the range of solution providers in the industry. And I mean, if we did anything, I think we really kind of invented this idea at scale of using professional learning for lead generation. I think people frequently used webinars for sales demos.
Right.
But we've really said this is not a sales demo. This is a professional learning thought leadership experience, not tied to your product, but showcasing the expertise in your network. So they're tapping into the biggest experts that they know in their field to have them talk about it. So that it's, and we've talked about crowdsourcing a lot. It's sort of a crowdsource model for bringing together that many presenters on that many topics. And in the early days, it was much more about technology, the early days of technology, using iPads, one-to-one, mobile learning, gay-based learning, those kinds of things, right? Now, we frequently see that the top topics, unfortunately, mostly since COVID, mental health, well-being, social emotional issues, behavior is a big one, student behavior. So
well, it's a good segue. It's a great segue to my next question around AI. It's transforming education at an accelerated pace, never seen before. How do you see AI playing a role in EdWeb's future and in professional learning overall?
Well, we're using it already, and we're using it to, we have a lot of, a database where we can go in and search for, different content, but AI is unbelievable. And if we're trying to create a list of the half a dozen best programs for a teacher who has a specific need, and we're providing that more and more as a service. And then also to analyze data. So it's just unbelievable to analyze. We're working with more school districts. We're using it for private communities. to,
Right.
and to get the data on their stuff. You and I are both suffering with a little bit of a cough, so hold on a second.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Have some water. Have some tea. I was drinking some tea. Now I'm drinking water.
Mm. Yeah, I know we're both getting over the latest little thing here.
The latest trendiest virus that's circulating.
Yeah.
So continuing on the AI path, it was
Yeah.
interesting. I saw an interview with Bill Gates over the weekend, and
He has a new book out. Is it about his new book?
oh, okay, the winner he was on.
Yeah.
Have you started? Have you got it yet?
No.
Well, most transformative period in our lifetime. He sees AI beyond any innovation that he's experienced, including him being the founder of,
Yeah.
Microsoft and doing what he did in the computing world. His vision was a personal computer in every home.
Mm-hmm.
Remarkable story. Remarkable story. And you are remarkable. And your commitment to the sector is unparalleled in all that you do in giving back.
Well, the
And
sector's remarkable, I mean,
yeah,
and at this time now too, right? So we're in this time of like unbelievable change and uncertainty about funding and resources and content and and all of that. And there a lot of our networks were strengthened during COVID because we were online all the time, but they've persisted. And so, whether it's an official association or a group of colleagues that host a monthly chat. I think COVID did help us strengthen those bonds, and those bonds are just needed more than ever to help each other navigate the times.
would you do anything differently? Knowing what you know now, we were talking during our warm up chat,
Mm-hmm.
is that there's 10,000 great ideas. The number of people that walked in my workspace when I first opened that said, I had this idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, great, but why didn't you execute? The biggest challenge is getting over that fear factor to sign a 5-year lease, in my case, on
Mm-hmm.
something that was never done in a
Yeah.
mall. And people thought it was nuts, including my family. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when you're innovating, when you're a
Yeah.
pioneer, not everyone embraces your idea. I mean, imagine what Bill Gates faced and
Mm-hmm.
others in people kind of not embracing your great idea. How about what was that like? And is there knowing what you know now, would you still have done it?
Well, the answer to that is a really easy yes. But Kathy and Bobby Kirshen wrote their book, Innovate Hers, on purpose-driven women, as entrepreneurs, right? And they did a lot of research in it. And I think one of the things they came up with that I think was so interesting is how risk is sometimes harder for women to accept,
Mm.
that fear of it. And then there's also the financial part.
And the imposter syndrome, throw
No,
that in.
no, I think I'm always amazed at young entrepreneurs
Yeah.
because I don't know how I would have ever had the skills and the knowledge to do it when I was young.
Hmm.
But I was already over 50.
Wow.
Little reveal here. When I started EdWeb, and I had a full career, and I had built multiple database systems with
Right.
developers. And so I had confidence that I had built systems before and that they had been successful. And so it wasn't that so much, but my daughter was just graduating from college. And I had raised her on my own. Her dad, my husband, passed away when she was 3. So I had raised her on my own for all that
So
time. And so I really didn't want to step away from the security of a full-time job. But at the point when she graduated from college, I said, well, okay, she actually went to Princeton too. And so I said, well, she has a great degree and she has no debt. And
you've done
so
your job.
if I crash and burn, I've given her, that much. And I said, I think it's time to take a chance.
Is it beyond what you imagine, the community? Because
Oh my gosh. I mean, well, it's way
you know,
beyond. I mean, yes. I mean, it's way beyond what I imagine. And I read a quote somewhere. I think it was William Blake. I have to find it. Oh, ChatGPT will help me find it. I'll go search
there
that
you
down.
go.
But he wrote something about,
I've heard of
when
that.
you're something about when you're doing what you're supposed to do, the universe aligns,
Hmm.
something like that. And I just really have always felt like this must be what I was meant to do, because so many people have been so affirming and helpful and supportive,
Right.
enthusiastic along the way. And I think, so I think finding, so what I always say to younger people coming along is, every day you just want to wake up and you want to say to yourself, do I want to do this today?
Hmm.
And if the answer is yes, you're on the right path. And to focus on what you want to do and not what you think you can do. Like, I mean, I would frequently say to myself something like, can I do it? When you're offered an opportunity, ooh, can I do it? Do I have the experience? And women talk about that a lot, about whether or not they feel like they have the competence, for something. But
Right.
you really just need to ask yourself, do you want to?
Well said. I mean, I feel blessed to be part of your community and doing what we do. It really does not feel like work. I mean, some days, yes, but you know, we get to connect at a lot of the professional learning events
I'm
that
happy to be part of your community.
yeah, well, thank you.
You
It
run
is,
an amazing community. Your conferences,
yeah.
your Canadian EdTech, your Can-Am EdTech summits are really inspirational.
And tomorrow night we're having our first EdTech Canada EdTech TO meetup of the year in
Mhm.
person and online.
Yeah.
So that's exciting, and bringing the community together and sharing and connecting and problem solving, because there are a lot of challenges that we're facing today.
Mhm.
And throw in, you know, trade sanctions and tariffs and 51st state, and without getting political, I
I'll
hope
move to the 51st
I,
state.
happy to adopt you. uh, I'm hoping that we continue with the Can-Am and not the UCAN or whatever we're going to call it. uh, but it is unprecedented times, and
Yeah.
I think one of the challenges is, as you do on a daily basis, is keep it all positive and
Hmm.
make an impact. It's about
Yeah.
ultimately making an impact. So,
Mhm.
on that note, I'm going to segue to my next question, which is, with 17 years of impact, what's next for EdWeb? Are there any exciting new projects, partnerships, and innovations on the horizon that you might want to talk about?
Well, the thing that I am focusing on now is that for most of the 17 years, we've grown the business of offering the free professional learning sponsored by partners, and sponsors. And during COVID, I began to see that I thought district administrators were becoming a little bit more open. Most of the district, professional development for school districts is often managed a lot by the districts themselves, or they bring in an outside speaker that can be $10,000 for a day for
Right.
some group of the staff, but not necessarily everybody, or it doesn't apply
Sure.
to everybody. Sending people to conferences, which are expensive, but not everybody can go. So what I've been doing is talking with more district administrators about offering online professional learning through EdWeb, through private communities where we can help
Hmm.
them get data that will make it more accessible, that they could offer it as an alternative for a day. So
Great
districts
idea.
are doing things like watch 6 webinars during the year and you get out of a day in person.
Mm.
Or here's our schedule for the day, but if you're in early learning or music or art or some of the things where the content isn't as geared to you, go on EdWeb, and then we'll create some playlists and you can find something there, because we have such a wide range of content. So my thing is to see how we can get districts to do these private networks and use our services a little bit more for their staff as an option. And it's really exciting because we're talking to them all the time. We're hearing about everything they're dealing
Right.
with. And it's a really exciting stage.
Fantastic. Well, so final question. What's one piece of advice you'd offer education leaders and teachers who are looking to stay ahead of the digital learning curve? If you
Well, that one's easy, Robert. Are you giving me a softball? Come to EdWeb. It's free. EdWeb.net. It's free. We have so many live programs, 3,000 recorded. You can search for what you're looking for, and it's all super, super current.
What's holding us back? We had a massive transformation during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Steve Jordans, who was my co-chair at our summit this year, who talked about the threat of the great snapback during COVID. And true to his words, it happened. Once teachers got back in the classroom, once school district took all those thousands of devices back from the kids who they gave them to that didn't have them at home, that had true one-to-one, and they went back to the old model for the most part.
Well, the thing with what we've done, what we've always done is, although we have a very, very large community, we don't have everybody. But we have those who really want to explore new ideas, new trends, innovative practices. And what I always say to schools and districts too is you don't have to have everybody in your school and district, who's engaging in that kind of learning, but it will influence the whole community, have a positive effect on everything. So we're very lucky in that our community are those who are really proactive about their own personal professional learning, whether they're getting credit for it in some way or not. We're approved for a lot of state teacher licensure, or whether your district's going to give you credit. A lot come just because they really just enjoy it.
So cool to share this time with you today.
It's really humbling. Oh, you brought up, how nice.
I would be remiss if I didn't show off your website. Here you go.
Yeah, we have so much AI content. Yeah. And then we have an EdWeb Voice as a publication where we publish a lot of programs for ed leaders. COSIN and AASA and ClassLink work with us on that one. Stevie Van Zandt from the E Street Band does programs on music.
And I have to say, I'm not an educator, but I do love coming on and catching some episodes, some professional learning. So it's not just for educators.
No. It's for anyone with a professional interest in education is what we say. We even have a job board.
Favorite technology tool that you'd like to use these days?
ChatGPT.
Oh my God. Same.
I mean, it's, I asked it to give me a workout, be my personal trainer, give me a workout, give me a diet, give me a recipe, plus, tell me about the challenges of growing a business in the education market.
It's all in the prompting, isn't it?
It's really phenomenal.
I'm a big fan.
And it's never gets impatient.
Doesn't talk back to you.
Doesn't talk back, never impatient, always polite, at least in my experience.
Lisa Schmucki, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Robert. It's been so fun. Always fun to talk with you.
That was Lisa Schmucki, the founder and CEO of EdWeb. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to this special MindShareTV edition. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to subscribe, share, and stay tuned as we continue to explore the future of learning in an AI-inspired world. My name is Robert Martellacci, the MindShare Learning Report. And until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep the learning curve steep.